Welcome to Deadly Night Tales. A Safe Place by Diana Campbell.
It was dark when I got home. Wet, wild, windy. I always felt nervous in this weather. With my hood up and my head down, it wasn't until I reached the gate that I noticed. Every light was on. TV too. I'd left the house in darkness and silence that morning. I lived alone. I stood still, mouth agape. My neighbour arrived home. He lowered his window. "You all right? Looks like Blackpool illuminations." "I daren't go in," I said, and I told him how I'd left the house. "Do you want me to come in with you?" No, don't be silly. Thanks for asking, though." I had a feeling that they already thought I was a bit cuckoo. I couldn't bear the thought of him coming in and finding nothing wrong. As I approached the back door, my entrance of choice in foul weather, I could hear the smart speaker blaring from the kitchen. I had definitely switched it off before I left the house. So who had switched it back on? I looked around at the hedge that divided the neighbour's house from mine, wishing that I hadn't been too polite and brushed off his offer of support. I took a few tentative steps into the kitchen and turned off the speaker, which had been loudly playing an ad for a local furniture shop. I jolted myself into a tense position, half expecting heavy footsteps to come running down the hall towards me, but none came. The only thing I could hear was the muffled sound of the TV from the other side of the living room door. Had there been a power cut when I left for work and I thought everything was off, and then when the power returned? But I don't put all the lights on at once. And I don't watch TV in the mornings. Once I'd turned that off too, silence dropped over the house and I could hear my pulse throbbing through my ears. The TV, the reading lamp, the clock on the living room wall, every mundane, commonplace item seemed to glare at me in the silence that was loaded with a new, sinister significance. The thought of a stranger moving about my house while I was out was too much to bear. I kept picturing dark boots on my soft beige carpet. I tried to put it out of my mind and eventually got to sleep that night. When it happened again the following day, I called the police, but they didn't seem interested. They could see nobody had broken in, and I told them nothing had been taken or disturbed. Well, except me, of course. "Anyone else got a key?" "No." I think they thought I was an attention seeker, a silly ageing woman. After a week of the same, I was almost used to it. Then I came home slightly early one day and found a dead cat draped over the television. Also, I was sure that I heard the noise of the back door clicking shut and the crunch of gravel in the driveway. I stayed paralysed to the spot, staring at the cat with its sharp teeth and mouth open. I couldn't move. I hadn't even dared to go to the window to check. A very nice constable took me seriously this time. He could see that I was shaking, and he checked with the neighbours. For a character reference, I suppose, or to ask if they'd seen anything. Mostly people had been at work. He talked about CCTV and asked if there was anyone I could stay with. I rang my sister. Lights and noise were one thing, but dead animals? I drew up my sister's after work the following day. She said she was glad I'd called and that I could stay with her as long as I needed. I was at work. I looked up from my desk and saw the constable. "My house was on fire," he said. He was about to fit cameras, but he'd ended up calling the fire brigade instead. In the ensuing investigation, it was found that the blaze had been caused by an electrical fault. and that the cat had died of electrocution. But I was hazy about the rest. Hysteria had set in, and I was unable to process the information. My sister and her husband had been sorting out the cleaning up and sale of my house and looking for a flat for me and sheltered accommodation. They recommended a kindly doctor who advised early retirement and a long rest in a safe place. I don't think the drugs were necessary, but what would I know? I do want to go home, though. Just one more sleep. I'll wake up in a minute.
Thank you for listening to Deadly Night Tales. Please like, subscribe and follow us to help others find the show. And if you have a creepy story that you'd like a chance to have read on the show, please check the show notes for submission information. Thank you, good night, and sleep well.